So it's England versus South Africa in a semi-final of the World Cup. Can England win this one? Well, they're massive underdogs. The odds are very much against them. It's definitely different to what it was in the last World Cup, where England and South Africa met in the final and England felt definitely equals, very confident for that game, but obviously they got annihilated. Can they do any better in this game? Well, they're going to have to think very carefully about selection and the way they play just to have any sort of chance. They're the big underdogs. Maybe they can play that card. But anyway, so far England have taken advantage of the draw. They're the only unbeaten side in the World Cup. They've done the job. They've got through to the semi-final. We knew this route was possible, but they've done very well to do it. But of course, they haven't faced any of the big boys yet. And the Boks are very, very big boys. So let's talk about England's selection, how they might play, and also how they played in that game against Fiji in the quarter-final. Starting with the props. We have a problem with the props and we know it. We have one quality prop in Ellis Genge, a decent scrummager but very explosive around the pitch, really good against Fiji, breaking loads of tackles that maybe he shouldn't. So impressive performance from Genge, but he's kind of the only standout performer. The rest there are question marks of, and of course propping is one area South Africa are incredibly strong. Now the starting props of Kitsoff, Malherbe, they're incredibly strong, but then they bring on Oxenche, very small, squat as in shorter, squat, amazing scrummager, so destructive. Can England counter the scrum? Well, probably not. I think the best way to do it is to try and get the ball in and out as quick as you can on your ball and then just hope and try your best on their ball. You could start, of course, Marler and Cole, but then they're very, very slow, and then coming on against Oxenche, you'll have your less good scrummagers, shall we say. So I'm not sure there is a good way round of doing it. So I think you stick with Genge starting and Cole at the tight head. Cole had a decent game, I thought, against Fiji. Did a lot of ruck work, a lot of solid work, nothing spectacular. On the bench, Marler, you could bring him on as a strong scrummager, but I think England need to go for it in this game a bit more. Are they going to out-scrummage South Africa? I don't think so. They just have to survive. So I think let's bring on a more exciting prop in Bevan Rod, see how he goes, take a bit of a punt on the youngster. I don't think Marler's the way forward. He was so slow against Fiji. It was painful, but I guess you can make the argument of being more sensible in the scrum. Hooker, Jamie George had a really good performance against Fiji. He strung together a lot of good performances. Full 80 minutes against Fiji. He is the man. We didn't see Dan at all, I don't think, against Fiji, although I like Dan as impact. And I guess that's similar to how South Africa might use Mbonambi, who is their main man now, maybe using Fourie in the back row. So it's going to be Genge, George and Cole for me, and Rod, Dan and Sinclair on the bench. I mean, you could go Stewart, but he hasn't been great either. So I think you stick with Sinclair and very much cross your fingers. Hope for not too many scrums, but as we know with South Africa, if they want to scrum, they will find ways of getting scrums, cleverly taking that mark and Willemse calling the scrum deep in their 22 straight away. So South Africa will get plenty of scrums, I'm sure. But anyway, I think that's just kind of cross your fingers and hope there. Second rows. Well, I think Itoje has had a really good game against Fiji, where maybe his best game, some big work in the line out, the maul. He made one interception and break with a handoff that unfortunately had to get called back for some other infringement. Maybe looked a little leggy towards the end, but that's understandable. So he's had a good tournament. Chesham, again, he did some excellent work, but also a couple of bad mistakes, some really soft tackles. So he's always been swings and roundabouts. But they've been together now for a while, Itoje and Chesham. Do you break it up now? I think probably not. Stick with these guys. Hope they have an absolute stormer. I mean, you could call Ribbons in for a bit of extra heft maybe, or Martin, but I don't think you can change it now. Martin does add energy coming off the bench, so I think you stick with Itoje, Chesham and Martin to come on. Back row. England's back row had a good game against Fiji. Laws, yes, he's not as quick as he was. I think we can see that now, but still very good in the line-out. Some excellent turnovers. Quite quietly went about a really good shift against Fiji, so he definitely stays at blindside. Tom Curry, a bit of a mixed bag, made some really good tackles, some good ruck clearances, but then he did make some mistakes, give away penalties, maybe not as many turnovers as he'd like, but he's getting there. So I think it's, again, cross your fingers and hope he has a world against South Africa. England star man, though, was Ben Earl. He's been the star man of the World Cup so far. amazing breaks. He looks like the one guy in that pack, maybe along with Ellis Genge, to make those big breaks, and the turnovers and the crazy engine. Plays a bit like a 7, but playing at 8 maybe gives him a bit more freedom to run with the ball. So I think you have to stick with that back row. Now Billy V came on and had some nice touches, interception, set up Earls' break. He is slow, but his heft against South Africa could be very useful. But I'm proposing quite a big change. Go to a 6-2 split. I think England's forwards are looking leggy at times. They need some extra backup. Against South Africa, they can't fall off the pace. So get that extra guy on the bench. Lewis Ludlam's the man for me. Loads of energy, cover a lot of positions. You could have Lords going into second row if he needed, as well as Martin. So I think it's a 6-2 split for this game. Smith, he can cover 10. So unfortunately, Ford probably drops out, even though I'd have liked him to have played maybe against Fiji. Farrell had a really solid game, so I don't think you can do that. So unlucky for Ford, but he drops out to enable the 6-2 split. Do you think that's a good idea or not? At 9, Mitchell had his best game in an England shirt for sure. Box kicks were excellent, great length, great height, tidied up loose ball with more confidence. This is what we wanted to see. Hopefully he can kick on. Conversely, in the last match, Danny Kerr had made a big impact coming on against Fiji. He didn't. He made some good tackles, but England definitely struggled when all the subs came on. But I don't think there's any reason to change now, so Mitchell with Kerr on the bench. Now, Owen Farrell had a very strong game against Fiji. His goal kicking was excellent. I think one he missed fell short, but it was right on target. His bullet long passes were really quick, incredibly physical, although my heart is in my mouth a lot of the times because he stands very upright when he tackles, always risking a yellow or red card or something like that. But if he gets it right, incredibly physical, and that will be needed against South Africa. He played a full 80 versus Fiji, one deliberate knock on towards the end, nearly blotted his copybook, but it didn't make a difference in the end, so he definitely stays at 10. At 12, Tuolangi. An excellent beginning to the game for him, full of energy, brilliant try, great running, definitely dropped off a bit towards the end of the game, slipping off a few tackles. You really need Lawrence on the bench to cover for him if he's going to start. So Tuolangi at 12, Lawrence on the bench, Marchant at 13. What a world of difference it made to have a Tuolangi Marchant, a proper 12-13 instead of Farrell at 12 and Tuolangi at 13. A really nice try, nice clean break. Not perfect, but a great game, I think, for him all round. Now the wingers. This is where I see a change for England. May and Daly seem to be system players. They didn't make any errors, but they did nothing particularly dangerous either. May had a break up the wing, but just didn't really seem to go for it. Likes to cut in field a bit. Daly, tidy, but nothing dangerous. I say you make a big call here and you change the wingers. You have Arundel on one side for that extreme pace. Whatever that beef is between him and Farrell, they need to make it up. You need something special against South Africa. Maybe someone scores something from nothing. We don't have anyone like that yet, apart from maybe Ben Earl in the forwards. So Arundel on one wing, and on the other wing, I'm going to go for Freddie Stewart. Get the height on there. Let's use his high ball in an attacking sense. Now, under Eddie Jones, they did try and switch him from fullback to wing during the game to set him up for that, but then it's too obvious. I say start him on the wing. Yes, he's a bit slow and it is a risk, but England need to take some risks. Pace threat on one side, high ball threat on the other side, high up and under, crossfield in the 22. See if they can outmatch maybe Colby or Renza on the wing. I think it's worth a shout. Whether it'll work, I don't know, but give South Africa something else to think about. And I think you absolutely stick with Smith at 15. He definitely is good as the extra playmaker, switching the play. Couldn't create too much against Fiji. Got a bit bashed around, but stood up to it well. And I think that experience will really help him against South Africa. So that is my team. Genge, George, Cole, Atoje Chesham, Laws, Curry, Earl, Mitchell, Farrell. In the centres, Tuolangi, Marchant. On the wings, Arundel, Stewart and Smith at fullback, with Dan, Rod and Sinclair replacement front row, Martin replacement second row, two back rows on the bench in Vunipola and Ludlam, and maybe Laws to go to second row if needed. So 6-2 split. Kerr covering 9, Lawrence covering centres, Marchant can cover wing and Smith can cover 10. So that's the way I think England should go. How should they approach this game? Well, first of all, I think it's going to be a heavy kicking game for England for sure. They need to have a go at the line out. That's one area England would be looking good. It's not like South Africa are weak there, but they have to try. Kicking game, line out, they've got to try and get superiority. Scrum-wise, well, they're just going to have to hang on, to be honest. They don't want to attack from their own half, that's for sure. show a different picture in attack, come up with some plays that South Africa have never seen before and hope they can execute them. Try and get the ball to Arundel in space, try and get a high crossfield kick to Stewart in attack and see how it goes, and just be super gritty and use that 6-2 split to try and keep that pack going to the end. Maybe England have a chance, maybe they don't. Let me know how you would select the team and if you think they can win and what tactics they should use. Comments below, and I'll catch you next time.